Hello, my name is Drachman. Welcome to my creative critical reflection. To start, I'll be answering the question, how does your product use or challenge conventions, and how does it represent social groups or issues? The film I created does not challenge many conventions and chooses to mainly follow them. It includes a large family estate, which is a common trope in horror films because a large house can assume people have wealth and could be hiding something in the many rooms and areas. It has low lighting in some areas, mainly when the killer is shown before the murder occurs, and when the victim checks on the door after the bell rang. This is used to create a looming sense of danger and make the viewer unsure of what is lurking in the darkness. Another convention that my film follows is that the victim is oblivious to the danger around them. This is shown when the killer is in the house, grabbing a knife, and also opening the sliding door, all while the victim is still checking the door. However, it also challenges conventions in some respects as well. For example, the lighting in most of the shots is bright and more colorful compared to most horror films, which are usually darker and have a muddier tone in general. It also features two killers, or rather, one killer and one helper, something not very frequent in horror films. Most films feature one iconic killer chasing down people. As for the social groups and issues and how they are represented, I chose to focus more on the mystery and horror aspects of my film and did not really think about the social groups and issues when filming. This meant that the social groups and issues were not represented much in this film. Now I'll be talking about audience engagement and distribution, which will be answering the question, how does your product engage with audiences and how to be distributed as a real media text? My product engages with audiences by giving them a thrilling horror experience and sitting the viewer on the edge of their seat constantly. The viewer is always aware something is happening while the victim is completely ignorant to the situation he is in. This makes the film very suspenseful and makes the viewer constantly wait for the victim to understand what is happening and ultimately for the final moment, which is the murder. For distribution, I would first spread it to my friends and give them each a free copy of the film to review it and form an opinion on it. This would let them spread it via word of mouth, giving the movie local popularity and making it something people could discuss in a conversation. Then I would use YouTube's advertisement process to distribute my film to anyone interested in a short film or an amateur film. I would use this by making sure that the film only goes out to people interested in the film genre by YouTube's targeted ad system, meaning that the film would only go out to people that would actually want to look at the film and not just skip it. I would include my entire film in the advertisement because it is only around 2 minutes. Therefore, it is relatively cheap to fit in the entire opening into a skippable ad. Due to the low budget of this project, it will only be distributed to around 500 viewers at a cost of around $100. This is prone to change, however, if I'm willing to put more money into the project or it ends up making a profit. At the end of the opening, I would include a Kickstarter or GoFundMe, which would allow anyone interested in the future of this film to donate money and follow the progress of the film. I would also incentivize donating by including any donators in the credits of the full-length movie. I would use the donations from these sources to fund more ads and gain the budget necessary to finish off this film. The opening mainly focused on the horror aspect of the movie, while the rest of the movie would focus on the mystery itself and how the detective solves who actually killed the man. Now I will be talking about the skills I developed throughout the filming, which will be answering the question, how do your production skills develop throughout this project? There were many skills I developed throughout this project, including more knowledge on subjects such as writing, filming, editing, and general knowledge on lots of media text. The first skill I developed would be writing. The blog posts I had to make helped keep this project fresh in my mind, and the screenplay development made me write in a format I was unfamiliar with, making it a challenge. Both made me a better writer and taught me how to write as a director. The second skill I learned would be camera work and filming. While I was aware of the media terminology like pans, zooms, tilts, and the different shot differences, I did not know how to execute these camera techniques myself. This meant I had to research how to do these techniques as well as general operation of a DSLR camera. After getting a general idea on how to operate the camera, I focused on how to do things like zooms and focuses. Much of my film opening requires specific zooms and focuses, so it was hard to execute as a beginner. After these tasks were finished, the film became a lot easier to record and I gained a solid number of skills with the camera, meaning the rest of the film went by a lot smoother because I did not have to do as many takes. The next skill I developed would be editing. I was somewhat familiar with editing before this project, but piecing a film together shot by shot was a lot more difficult. I had done a small bit of editing beforehand, which was mainly applying text to a video or inserting sound over video. I never messed with things like cutting or putting clips next to each other. With the many takes of the film, I marked all of the takes and made sure to write down when we took a good take. This made searching through files much easier, and I let the editing process go a lot more smoothly. Finally, the last skill I developed was how to understand media texts. Before this project, I looked at movies at face value. After this project, I see the individual shots in the movie and how long it likely took for everyone on set to execute said shots. I used this new understanding to inspire many different things for my film, including many different angles and editing techniques. Now I will be talking about the technologies used. This will be answering the question, how did you integrate technologies, software, hardware, and online in this project? Lots of technology was used for my film opening, including lots of hardware, software, and online technologies. For hardware, there were many different pieces of technology being used for filming. The first, and likely the most important technology used, would be the camera. I used the same camera throughout the filming of the movie, and without it, almost all of the shots shown in the opening would have been less clean, very choppy, and I would be unable to do things like zooms and manual focuses. I also used general equipment for camera operation, such as a tripod. Another challenging piece of equipment I used was the boom mic. I couldn't hold both the camera and mic at the same time, so I had my brother hold it. Seeing as both of us had little experience with the boom mic, we had trouble facing it in the right direction and keeping it out of frame. Anytime it was in frame slightly, we had to reshoot, which quickly became frustrating. This led to us abandoning the boom mic and using smaller microphones, which could attach to the camera itself, making recording audio much easier. We also used lavalier mics for the opening shot, due to the large distances between the camera and actor. We also had studio lights, but we did not use them as much because they were extremely bright and did not make the scenes very suspenseful due to the bright atmosphere. The last piece of equipment we used were digital voice recorders, which we used for a lot of the audio which required a mic to be close to an object or person. For software, I used many different programs during this project. I used Microsoft PowerPoint and Word for the screenplay as well as the Creative Reflection you are viewing now. For the editing of the film, I used Lightworks, a free editing tool that has all the necessary tools to produce this film opening. At first, it was intimidating, and I had to look at multiple guides to figure out how to piece everything together. Once I got a basic understanding of how to use the essential editing tools, like moving the scenes together, trimming them to only include the footage I wanted, and adding text for the opening shot. Another challenge was that adding audio to the editing software from the digital voice recorder. Because we had taken many takes, it was filled with audio that had to be scrapped, which took a lengthy amount of time. Once the recording had been trimmed, it was difficult timing so that the audio played at the exact second a sound was played, or when a character spoke. Once the audio had been figured out, the rest of the editing went smoothly. For online technologies, I used many Google products. This includes Google Drive for file storage and ease of access, Blogger for the blog posts and updates, and YouTube for watching guides and uploading the finished product, as well as the CCR.